Welcome to Sissygram Spicy Story Channel. If you like my voice, then hit the like button and do subscribe our channel for regular updates. Today I come up with whole new content of story. So, now let's start the story. That night started like any other. My roommate, Alina, and I had grown close over the past few months, bonding over late-night chats, movie marathons, and the kind of secrets you only share with someone you truly trust. But beneath the surface of our friendship, there was always something more, something unspoken that I hadn't fully acknowledged. At least, not until that night. It was Friday evening, and we had just finished watching a movie. The dim light of the room cast a soft glow as we sat on the couch, laughing and teasing each other about how bad the film had been. Everything felt easy and familiar, but there was an undercurrent, a subtle charge in the air that I couldn't quite explain. I dismissed it as my imagination and tried to shake it off. As the clock struck midnight, we decided it was time for bed. I was exhausted and ready to crash. Alina, as usual, gave me a playful smirk. "You're always the first one to fall asleep," she teased. I shrugged with a grin, brushing off her comment as I grabbed my pajamas and got under the covers. The soft sheets instantly relaxed me as Alina moved around the room, turning off the lights and climbing into her bed just a few feet away from mine. The room grew quiet, except for the gentle hum of the ceiling fan. I closed my eyes, ready to drift off, but sleep didn't come easily. My mind kept replaying the way Alina had looked at me earlier. There was something different in her gaze, something I hadn't noticed before. I told myself it was nothing, just a fleeting thought, and let my body sink into the weight of sleep. Little did I know, everything was about to change. In the middle of the night, I woke to the sensation of movement beside me at first. I thought I was dreaming, but as I opened my eyes, I realized I wasn't alone. Alina was lying next to me, her body so close I could feel the warmth of her skin against mine. My heart raced as I froze, trying to process what was happening. She wasn't supposed to be in my bed, but there she was. Her hand rested gently on my arm, her touch so light it sent a shiver down my spine. The room was dark, illuminated only by the faint glow of the streetlights outside. I could barely make out her face, but I knew it was her. My breath hitched as her hand moved, slowly and hesitantly, up my arm and onto my shoulder. My body felt conflicted, caught between the shock of the situation and an undeniable pull I had been suppressing for far too long. I had never allowed myself to think of Alina that way, at least not consciously. But now, with her so close and her touch awakening feelings I didn't fully understand, I couldn't ignore it anymore. Alina leaned in, her lips brushing softly against my ear as she whispered, "I'm sorry, I couldn't help myself." Her voice was low, filled with a mix of hesitation and desire. Her breath on my neck sent a wave of warmth through me, making my heart pound harder. I turned my head to look at her, my voice trembling as I managed to whisper, What are you doing?" She didn't respond right away. Instead, she pressed her forehead against mine, her hand tracing down my side, her touch both tentative and deliberate. "I've wanted to tell you for so long," she finally said, her voice shaky. But I was scared. Scared of what? I wanted to ask, but the words caught in my throat. Her fingers moved gently, exploring in a way that made my skin tingle with anticipation. I had never felt anything like this before, never experienced such an intense, magnetic connection. Before I could think of how to respond, Alina's lips met mine. The kiss was soft at first, hesitant, as though she was waiting for me to push her away. But I didn't. Instead, I found myself kissing her back, slowly at first, then with more urgency as the heat between us grew. Her hands moved with newfound confidence, and my body responded in ways I hadn't anticipated. In that moment, everything else faded away. It didn't matter that she was my roommate, or that I had never imagined myself in this kind of situation. All that mattered was the way she made me feel alive, desired, and wanted. As the kiss deepened, the tension that had been lingering between us for months finally melted away, replaced by a powerful intensity that neither of us could resist. Her touch, her closeness, the way her heartbeat matched mine, it all felt electric. We moved together, our bodies pressed against one another, lost in the moment. It was as if the outside world had ceased to exist, and all that remained was us. And then, just as suddenly as it had begun, it was over. We lay there in the darkness, tangled together, our breathing heavy. I didn't know what to say or how to make sense of what had just happened. When I looked at Alina, I saw the same uncertainty reflected in her eyes. "I'm sorry," she whispered again, her voice barely audible. "I didn't mean to." I shook my head, cutting her off. "Don't apologize," I said softly, reaching out to touch her cheek. "I'm not sorry." Her eyes widened, surprise flickering across her face. "You're not?" I smiled faintly, though my heart was still racing. "No, I'm not." For a moment, we just stared at each other in the dark, the silence heavy with unspoken emotions. Neither of us seemed to know what to say, so we stayed like that, wrapped in each other's arms, letting the quiet speak for us. The next morning, everything felt different. I woke up to the warmth of Alina's body still pressed against mine. The events of the night before flooded back into my mind, and I wasn't sure how to feel. Part of me was still in shock, trying to process what had happened. But another part of me couldn't deny the excitement, the thrill of what we had shared. I turned to look at her, wondering what she would say when she woke up. Would she regret it? Would she pretend it hadn't happened? The uncertainty gnawed at me as I lay there, waiting for her to stir. When she finally opened her eyes, she didn't say anything at first. Instead, she looked at me, her expression soft and searching. "Are you okay?" she asked quietly, her voice barely above a whisper. I nodded, though I wasn't sure if I was telling the truth. "Yeah," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "I'm okay." She bit her lip as though she wanted to say more, but instead, she reached out and took my hand, giving it a gentle squeeze. "I didn't mean to make things weird," she said softly. "I don't want to ruin our friendship." Her words made my heart ache in a way I hadn't expected. I smiled at her, my voice warm. "You didn't ruin anything," I said. "But we should talk about what happened." She nodded, her expression serious. "Yeah, we do." And so we talked. About the feelings we had been hiding, the fear of what this might mean for our friendship, and the confusion we both felt. It wasn't easy at first, but as we spoke, the tension between us began to ease. We realized that what had happened wasn't something to be ashamed of. It wasn't a mistake. It was real, something that had been building between us for a long time. From that moment on, everything changed. We weren't just roommates anymore. We were something more, something deeper. And even though we didn't have all the answers yet, we knew we were ready to figure it out together. As I sat there, holding Alina's hand and smiling at her, I couldn't help but feel a sense of hope for whatever the future might bring. I wasn't going to let fear hold me back anymore. This is where the story wraps up. Share your thoughts in the comments below. For more stories like this, be sure to subscribe to my channel. I'll talk to you soon. See you next time.